Thank you so much for joining our Stay Connected webinar today. It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Get Connected conference partners, which include the 21st Century Community Learning Center program in Nebraska, Nebraska Extension, Beyond School Bells, Click to Science PD, and the Nebraska Department of Education. So I'm Kim Larson, and I wanted to welcome you. We know people in our after school and summer programs love their gardens, and they're either in the midst of working on their gardens with their students, or they're thinking, that's maybe a great opportunity I could bring to my students. So we are really excited for today's topic. We have Kayte Partch and Sarah Smith from the Nebraska Department of Ed, who are experts in this area, and Sarah Lane, who's with the national organization KidsGardening. So I'm going to let them tell a little more about themselves and take it away. Thank you for leading our webinar today.
Great, thanks, Kim. I will get us started. So we're going to be talking about farm to summer and after school, which is a modification from the broader term farm to school, which can really be leveraged in many different platforms, whether you're working with early child care facilities or you're working with summer programming or with after school settings. So it's a lovely thing to modify and adjust as needed and work with multiple resources that fall under the farm to school definition. So like Kim introduced, we do have, I'll be kicking us off today. I'm the farm to school specialist as part of the Office of Coordinated Student Support at Nebraska Department of Education. And then Kayte is going to talk a little bit about summer programming. She's the director of child nutrition programs at NDE. And then like Kim said, Sarah Lane's joining us, and I'm really excited to have her with us. She's got a lot of on the ground experience. So she'll have plenty of stories and resources to share with us, all in a short period of time. She would probably really appreciate knowing who's in the room though. So if you are able to, I know some of you might be remote, but if you're able to put in the chat your name and what operation you're with, if you're an after school program, what part of your city that you're from, she'd probably appreciate seeing that before she kicks off in a couple minutes. So we're going to start with talking about how you can use farm to school programming to connect the farm to summer work or after school programs, and then how to find local product. Kayte's going to talk about summer meals programs and how to take advantage of those now and locate one that is near you, as well as a awards program called Turn Up the Beat that we'd love to see some activity in Nebraska. And then Sarah's going to do a lot of the experiential education pieces for the garden and how to find funding for that, and then engage in national communities that are online. So to start, some of you may have seen this graphic before, but farm to summer just adapts really well from the model for farm to school. And so when we talk about farm to school, those components are really broken down into these three pieces, where we're talking about procurement. So finding, sourcing local foods from within your community or within the state, and bringing them into summer programs for taste tests or summer meals. We're looking at that hands-on education, the curriculum pieces that you can really integrate into your programming. That might include field trips or programming like Harvest of the Month and taste testing. And then school gardens or community gardens, gardens on site, container gardens that you could use for your summer programming that get kids moving and active, learning about their food and nutrition components. So we do know that summer site programming, because it is sometimes quite flexible, it does allow for that adaptation of these farm to school resources that do already exist. So a lot of encouragement to make use of those. The USDA Farm to School Census in 2015 shared that 22% of providers are buying local foods for summer meal programs. So that number has only increased as time has gone on. So some of the benefits for this is that when you do engage in farm to summer programming, then you do see an increase in participation as far as the numbers of students that are engaged in farm to summer or summer meals programs. And some of that is because they make this connection into the food in some ways, and the quality of the meals are improved. Those foods are harvested just straight directly and locally and delicious. So I know my kiddo is home for the summer, and we live right next to our community garden that we grow out of. And this morning, her and her best friend came by with strawberries, and they were comparing the ones in our refrigerator from the store with those strawberries and tasting these local foods. And they've been drawing a map of the spinach and the lettuces that are growing in the backyard too. So they're engaged in it. They're willing to try it. And they're more willing to eat it. So just tons of benefits to connecting to those local products. Another benefit is that if you're working with your school, you're able to test new recipes that are using those local products before you might be serving them on a larger scale. And then you have this benefit for the community and for those producers that can begin to sell into a reliable market. It helps them grow their sales locally as well. And again, when kids are eating those local and delicious foods, they're being nourished. So some of the programming that is available to consider making use of, very often different states will have Harvest of the Month, which is great. In Nebraska, we are growing our program as we speak. So we have been focusing Harvest of the Month on the school year. So there's a current slate of 11 items, and this summer we'll be growing it to 15 items that are typically available during the school year, but in the near future, we'll be growing it to summer items as well. So I just listed here a couple of other states that have fantastic materials to take advantage of, and I'd be happy to share some of those sites out after the presentation. But Iowa, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Montana, and I know Sarah had said that Arkansas is developing a seasonal harvest, or season of the month, I think it was, or harvest of the season. All right, she can tell us later. But yeah, so those things are available and great to use. You can also consider local foods clubs like a garden club or a farm to summer kickoff event. I know that Overton Public Schools did that this last summer and had huge community involvement there. You can consider using those gardens to try different activities and taste testing and practice what it would be to bring those foods into meals. And so to do that, just an encouragement to connect to your local communities, even if you're not operating a program directly with a school. Connect with that school nutrition staff to see if they are available to help with that incorporation of the local foods into reimbursable meals. Just remember that they do have that expertise for food safety, and they've been trained on food prep, and very often they might be connected to local farmers. So use your local resources and maybe set some goals to within the next month or the next 3 months or a couple weeks, whatever it would be. Connect to that school and see, or your community partners, and see what they might have that would connect with the goals that you have to move forward with summer programming with Farm to Summer. All right, so that is where I'm going to pass off to Kayte so she can help us connect to summer meals programs in the state.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. And it's great to see everybody today. Summer meals season is my favorite of the year because, I mean, obviously we have some nice financial resources to help support locations statewide that provide healthy and nutritious meals to kids when they're out of school. And I think that's awesome because of the meals alone, but even better because of the engaging activities that kids get to come to a meal service site with their friends to do. And I think that's just such an added like icing on the cake to a really fun summertime, is being able to do some things you don't normally get to do. And lots of the sites in Nebraska are schools. So they're going to locations they're really familiar with. They get to continue seeing some of their favorite people that they like have interact with, learn from during the school year, and some of those same people are at the summer meal sites too. And then we've got a nice host of nonprofits that also offer wonderful summer programming and are able to participate in the summer meals program too. So I feel like those things work hand in hand to give lots and lots of kids the opportunity to have a really fun summer. Helps make sure that they're kind of cared for in some way and have some fun things to do. So just a little bit of background about the Summer Meals Program. It's one of those USDA child nutrition programs. Therefore, it is federally funded, but it's administered and overseen by a state agency. In this case, it's the Nebraska Department of Education. And we reimburse schools and other sites that are operated by nonprofit organizations like YMCAs, some faith-based organizations, the Salvation Armies operate in sites across the state. We reimburse them for filling out some daily paperwork and providing those nutritious meals and documenting that they've done that. So those meals are free to all kids ages 1 to 18 years of age. They don't have to sign in or give their name or anything like that at a summer meal site. So we've removed that barrier. Those sites are located in higher need areas where there's documentation, and we've got several ways we can do that, that at least half of the school-age children in a community qualify for free or reduced price meals. So again, it's really meant to help fill sort of a void that would exist because school is out for the summer. That's a place where lots of kids get 1 or possibly 2 meals a day. So the summer feeding or summer meals program kind of comes in to help fill that void. And obviously this program is operated during the summer months when school isn't in session. So again, they get their healthy meals during the school year. We need a way to make sure that continues during the summer months when school's not in session. And that's what this program really is designed to help do. You can go on, Sarah. Thank you. I wanted to bring to your attention a few resources we have that we would love if you could share with folks you have contact with about locating summer meal sites across Nebraska. You could, something as simple as sending a text from your phone can get you really helpful information, or that you can share with families, or even just sharing these resources through your communication channels so they can locate meal service sites, and their information is a really wonderful thing to do. And Sarah put the site finder URL in the chat, so that's awesome. Everybody go click on that, let it open up and sit there, and then you can explore it just a little bit when today's session is over. But even if you don't have easy access to that URL, you can text the word food or comida for our Spanish-speaking populations to the number 304304. You're going to receive an automated text message back that asks you what the zip code is for the area you're looking to receive information for about the availability of summer meals. And then you'll type your zip code and send that back, and then it's going to generate a message to you with like the nearest locations, what the street addresses are, what the meal service days and times are. So that's a nice and easy way to have it right on your phone, which is something everyone takes with them almost all the time. The other option is to use the 211 number. So that's not a text message, but a line you would call, and again, be prepared to enter or provide your zip code, because that's how that information is then gathered up and provided to you in terms of what's most pertinent and geographically available to you. So I need to let you know, though, that Nebraska's site information hasn't yet populated those resources because my access to be able to do that was for some reason limited. I've had close contact with the USDA National Office to resolve this issue, reached out to them again today to make sure that we would be able to get our sites onto the map in the cycle that's going to be processed this week. So if you go there today, it's very possible, or use one of those resources today, you're not going to see any information, but I've got my fingers crossed that by Friday, we'll get that done and it will be all fixed and ready to go. I'll communicate with Kim too, to let her know that if she's got a communication channel with you, that she communicates with you all over the summer, that when that's been fixed, then you can feel free to share it with people and not receive a bunch of questions back like, what's the deal? This doesn't work, because we know that can be very frustrating for users. Okay. One more slide from you, Sarah. Yeah, I want to share with you a really unique recognition opportunity that the USDA provides to our summer meal sites for their engagement in the activities that Sarah mentioned at the top of the presentation today. They want to recognize outstanding summer meals program operators who offer high quality meals to children during the summer. Those meals and menus have to focus on very appetizing, appealing, and nutritious foods that also help meet the dietary guidelines for Americans. And if you're not a dietitian, you're probably like, what are those, right? Well, it's just the inclusion of nutritious foods that provide more vitamins and minerals, sort of minimize sodium, saturated fat, and added sugar in meals. So sponsors that utilize lots of local produce or things grown in a school garden as part of their meals really help achieve that. So that's where the dietary guidelines for Americans portion comes into play. And there's a couple of ways that sponsors of summer meals can apply. They can apply on their own. There's a short nomination form, answer some questions about your menus and food items, submit some supporting documentation, and then the state agency, we at NDE review that information and then send it up the channel so it can be evaluated for an award. The other option is if you're not a summer meals operator, but you're sitting here listening to me today, you know of a summer meals program that you think does a really nice job, you can also complete the nomination form on their behalf. So I know sometimes it's hard to get folks who are, spread out very thin, trying to operate summer programming, plan meals, order food, all that stuff. Adding one more thing to their plate sometimes seems like a challenge, especially now with staffing issues and some challenges with getting or procuring food for meals. That's another thing they just don't seem to have time for. But if you could fit in a couple of hours to look at that nomination form and complete it on their behalf, that's one way you can show your support for summer meals and the extraordinary efforts that those operators put into providing those really high quality and nutritious meals during the summertime. And so those nominations are evaluated and then awarded at one of three levels: a bronze, silver, or gold recognition. And we really want to emphasize that if you have engagement from community members who support farm to summer type activities at schools, engage with the participating children in the curriculum that's delivered at those locations, you've got local producers who those summer food sponsors are working with to include locally procured or produced menu items, we want that to be recognition for all of their efforts as well. So I'll close out to say the summer meals program is obviously federally funded. We've got some of those kind of guardrails in place to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse of that taxpayer money, but we really want to emphasize that this is a community-oriented option. You can kind of make it and take it into what you want it to be, and inclusion of local items in those menus is going to get kids interested in food, interested in trying new things, and then creating, or I guess I should say promoting this opportunity for recognition is another way we can support that sort of whole community, I guess, approach to expanding and supporting the summer meals program.
Thanks, Katie. All right, I stopped sharing that screen. I'm going to pass off to Sarah Lane here, and she will share her screen and tell us a little more about herself.
Thanks so much, Sarah and Katie. I'm thrilled to be with you all today. Can you all do a reaction or a thumbs up if, one, you can see the kids gardening slide? That would just make sure that I'm good. Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much. So I'm thrilled to be here and talking about the other pieces of Farm to Summer. Sarah and Katie really gave such a great detailed explanation of summer meals and local procurement and what the benefits are for kiddos and how they can be excited about what they're eating when we're incorporating local foods. And so let's transition and talk more about creating garden spaces and educating students in those spaces. So KidsGardening is a national nonprofit. It's where I work as the program director, and we have been around since 1982. And our goal is really just to get kids in the garden. We want to inspire them and create wonder and joy. Now, I have been with KidsGardening for about 8 months now, but before this, I was just like Sarah Smith, but in Arkansas. That's where I'm located. So I worked at the Arkansas Department of Agriculture as the farm to school coordinator in the state. And originally I'm from Seattle, but moved to Arkansas in 2016 when I served with Food Corps and was a garden educator at 2 elementary schools. I taught kinder through 4th grade students for 2 years in a garden about nutrition, cooking, leading taste tests, and other school-wide culture of health events. And I really found that this was something I was hugely passionate about. So I decided to get my master's in teaching, which brought me to San Antonio, where I taught 5th grade students. But then I moved right back to Arkansas and had the privilege of teaching preschoolers at a nature school. So my experience in education has really been from 3-year-olds all the way up to about 12 or 13-year-olds with some sprinkling of other education opportunities before that. So, like I mentioned, KidsGardening, we want to make sure that we can create opportunities for kids to play, learn, and grow in garden spaces. And our organization does this in 3 ways. We provide garden grants to schools, nonprofits, and other youth organizations like libraries, faith-based organizations, nonprofits, and others. And we offer 4 grants a year, and I will share more information about that later. We also create a lot of educational resources. And that is really where I'm going to be digging into today to show you ways that you can use our content and resources to support your school or youth gardens and provide education for students. And lastly, we launched our KidsGarden community last year in June. So we're right up to the 1-year mark right now. And it's an online peer-to-peer networking space where you can ask your garden questions and get feedback from other garden educators just like you. And just so that you can kind of understand the impact of our work and programming, last year we reached 3.7 million children through our grants, educational resources, and the KidsGarden community. And about 90% of the adult educators and caregivers that we work with saw an increase in youth environmental skills and stewardship, which we think are really important in garden spaces. So let's dig into our educational resources, which can range from quick activities that you can do in 5 to 30 minutes, longer lesson plans that are tied to academic standards. We also have curricular books that we recommend that have more and more lesson plans in those. We have growing guides, gardening basics, articles if you want to really understand the science behind certain pieces of the garden, may it be photosynthesis or a specific bug or animal. And we also have resources in Spanish and more on our site. And June is Pollinator Month, so happy Pollinator Month, everyone. And I thought that I would show some of the educational resources that we have for pollinators. So when you go to kidsgardening.org, you can look under the Learning Tools tab at the top, which you'll see in that white bar. And when you go into that, you can search specifically for resources, or you can view all our resources. And what I did here is I viewed all resources, and I went down and clicked on the topic pollinators, which you cannot quite see in this screenshot. But it did narrow down all of our resources because I know as an educator, it can be a little overwhelming to figure out where to start. So you can use our search tool, you can use our filter, depending on the age of students that you work with or a topic that you want to talk about. So this is what came up for pollinators. You can see that we have lots of lesson plans, lots of activities, and ways that you can teach students. You also can see that there are age ranges of each of these topics. And so that's a really quick way to filter down what you're looking for, from things like making field guides, doing things for Earth Day, growing milkweed, celebrating apples, whatever you're interested in, we likely have a lesson plan, an article, or curriculum for it. So let's look closer at 3 pieces. The first being our Little Seeds Pollinator Pals, which is a program that we developed with an organization called Little Seeds. And we created 12 different pollinator pal profiles. One of them is our lesser long-nosed bat. So bats are also pollinators, which might surprise a few people. Really fun profile that we have that includes fun facts, ways that you can make sure that you're helping bats thrive and survive. And the back is a coloring page that students can have. And I see the pollinator profiles being a really great handout to send home with students to share with their families afterwards and have a take home activity to do following something that you might do after school with your students and youth. So we have 12 of these. They're on different types of pollinators. Right here you see the bat, we have a hummingbird and mason bee along with 9 others. Well, what if instead of wanting to do, just a quick activity, you want to follow more of a guide that will help you have a few lessons on pollinators? A few years ago, we developed with Cabot this pollinator patch program to teach kids about the importance of pollinators. And it has 4 different sections, these 4 steps. So students and youth learn, what do pollinators do? Why are pollinators important? why are pollinator populations in decline, and how can we help protect pollinators? So this would be, 4 activities or 4 times that you meet with youth. You could work your way through this guided program. And a really fun piece of this is that when you finish the program, you can fill out a quick online survey to Kayte, and they'll send you a patch. So if you want to give that out to the youth that engage in your after school program. Another way, perhaps you don't want to send something home, maybe you're not looking for a longer kind of guided program, maybe just a book, a way to plug in and talk about pollinators this June. Books in Bloom is a really fun children's book that we have. It was developed by Valerie and Mark up at the St. Michael's College, which is up in Vermont, where KidsGardening's headquarters is based. But it has 17 different chapters, all featuring different children's books. And so it's a really fun way to dig in and hear a typical children's story, but look more at the science behind growing in the garden space. So 3 different ways to be looking at pollinators this month. And there are so many more educational resources that you can use on our website. I will just do a quick plug that when I moved to Arkansas and I taught at 2 elementary schools as a food corps service member, I used this after school guide called Sprout Scouts from Food Corps. It has 6 adventures, they call it. So 6 sessions where students are growing something in the garden and then having a tasting and cooking activity. So similar to that pollinator patch program with Kayte, if you're looking for another sort of guided program, I recommend this one as well. So that's our educational resources. And our garden grants, so we have 4, and I'm excited to share that we have one opening on Monday, June 6th. So thinking of how can KidsGardening support you beyond the education and teaching kids? How can we provide funding? And then how can we provide a space for you to ask your questions? So if you're interested in creating pollinator garden spaces, please, we encourage you to apply for our Pollinator Pals grant opening so soon. We also have 3 more grants that will open in the fall and early winter. So you can always check those out at kidsgardening.org. And lastly, the KidsGardening community, that's our online peer-to-peer learning space. It's a really incredible resource forum. There are questions that are asked daily from other educators, and they can range from topics of hydroponics to fences to what should I grow or how do I deal with fire ants. They are your friend when you have your questions, and it's that space to connect with others that are like-minded across the country. So you can join the KidsGardening community and join specific groups on a topic or just in our general forum to ask and answer questions. And so that's KidsGardening in a very quick spiel. I'm here for you though. I love farm to school, farm to summer work and connecting kids to garden spaces. So if there's any way that KidsGardening can support you, please reach out. This is my email and my phone number. I'm here to support all of your work. And with that, I'll pass it back to Sarah and Kayte.
Yeah, I will let Kim close us out then.
Is Sarah's information in the chat? So when we save the chat, we'll have all that.
I at least dropped your email, Sarah Lane. So if you want to put your phone number in there too, that'd be great.
I will, yes.
Thank you.
What a wonderful wealth of information. I cannot wait to explore those sites, and Sarah will help spread the word about your grants and resources too. We have some different ways we are able to do that. Anything you would like us to put on the Stay Connected side along with the recording of the webinar, let me know. Both Sarahs, Kayte, we have space for that, and the audience that would be interested. Does anybody have any questions quickly for any of them, or you want to share your best summer after school, summer gardening adventure? Now, a lot of the people on this call have gardens and are really committed to them.
I'm pretty excited because I get to go replant all ours because it all froze. So
Oh,
the kids planted. So we'll be replanting next week during science camp.
great. So you'll get another
Everything
try.
froze. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Shadron, you have some extremes in weather up there, don't you? Well, that's a true commitment when you plant it once and then get out there and do it again. Well, if there aren't any other questions, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, Sarah, Kayte, for the great information. We really appreciate it. We're going to take a Stay Connected break, but we will be back in July and with more exciting information and useful information. If you have suggestions about presenters or topics you'd like to know more about, be sure and let us know. Well, thanks everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Kayte, nice to meet you. Sarah, we appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.